Hello, everyone. Today, we will be discussing the 4 common pitfalls, or in other words, the 4 most common obstacles participants experience within Capstone 2.0. These include not following a strategy, low contribution margins, poor product design, and receiving emergency loans. Before you start making any decisions in your company departments, the first thing you need to do as a company is determine your strategy. You can locate the 6 basic strategies on page 32 of the user guide. Your goal is to go through these strategies and select one that you believe that should be the company's mission. After you have identified and selected a strategy, it is important to stick with it. Obviously, there may be some indirect variables that interrupt your strategy throughout the years, so there may be times where you do have to adapt and adjust, but following a strategy from start to finish will truly make decision-making easier for you. Your company will have no direction or success without a strategy. Next, we'll discuss contribution margins. Contribution margin is the difference between a company's sales and variable expenses, expressed as a percentage. Ultimately, this figure can indicate how profitable a product or company can be. Ideally, you'd like to have a contribution margin around 30% or higher. This will almost guarantee that for every unit you sell, you're at least breaking even or profiting from that sale. In my example here, you'll see I'm around 27.93%. So there are some things that I can do to improve this contribution margin. On your production page, you will be able to see the contribution margin per product. Essentially, your contribution margin is made up of 3 variables that you can control, which is your material cost, labor cost, and price. With that being said, you can increase a low contribution margin by doing 3 things. First, you can lower the MTBF or reliability of your product in R&D. This will directly lower your material cost because we are now building our product with cheaper material. Maybe we were building it with metal, now we're building it with plastic. But keep in mind the customer preference. We do not want to lower the reliability if that is something that's important to the customer. If you're opposed to lowering the reliability of the product, another option is lowering labor costs by increasing automation in the production department. Increasing automation is buying machinery for your company to build these products. And at the end of the day, machines are going to be cheaper than a person's salary. So remember, another thing here is that it does take a year to build this machinery. So this decision will not be recognized until the following year. In other words, you're not going to see your labor costs start lowering until those machines have actually been created. Lastly, if you don't want to lower material cost and you don't want to lower the labor cost, your last option is to increase price. If you are capable and you do have some room to increase the price of the product, then you will see the most immediate impact to your product here. Again, make sure you consider the customer buying criteria when making this decision. We do not want to significantly increase price if the customers are price sensitive. In conclusion, if your margins are low, you're not out of luck. You do have options that you can consider in order to reach a profitable outcome. Now let's talk about who matters most, the customer. For each segment, you will be provided a customer buying criteria which highlights each specific preference per customer. This is essential. Your ultimate goal is to provide a product that meets their criteria. The better the product is, the more products you sell. It's that simple. Each segment will significantly differ from one another. I like to compare these segments to the cell phone market. For example, low-end customers are like our grandparents or an older generation. They want something cheap that works. They can care less about the technology because their preference is functionality for a bargain. So we can imagine that they are flip phone users. High-end customers are the opposite. These are the tech-crazed addicts that want the best and the newest. In other words, these are the people standing in line all night for the brand new iPhone right when it drops. So performance and size are crucial, where price doesn't really matter that much. At the end of every year, the customers are nice enough to provide survey responses on what they thought of our products. This is considered the customer survey score, which can be found in the simulation report on each segment page. The higher the score, the better. If you ever see a low score for your product, compare it to the best product in that segment and go through the customer buying criteria to determine why your score is lower. So something that I like to do here is if we look at the product Able here with the score of 9, right? We compare it to Days with the score of 34. Why is it better than Able, right? So the first thing that's important to the traditional customer is an age of 2. We look at Able, it has an age of 4.1. Days has an age of 2.3. Right there, it's eye-opening. We need to do a better job on the age of our product to meet that criteria a little bit more closer to what they're asking for. 2 other items that can impact the survey scores, but not as drastic, are your customer awareness and customer accessibility, which is driven by promo and sales budgets. As a company, you need to cater your product to your customer needs. The closer your product is to their preference, the more likely you'll succeed. If your margins are high and your products are well designed, but you received an emergency loan, that can only mean 2 things. 1, you overproduced and have too much inventory, or 2, you made some large investments this year and did not finance these decisions properly. You can view how much inventory you have per product on the product analysis page, page 4 of the simulation report. When the year ends, you do want some inventory because if you stock out, you're most likely missing out on opportunity in the market. Therefore, a good benchmark is around 2 to 3 months of extra inventory at the end of the year. Anything higher will start impacting your company's cash flow because there is a 12% carrying cost when it comes to carrying inventory. If you do experience issues with inventory, I recommend checking out our forecasting video for Capstone 2.0, which will help eliminate the issue moving forward. If inventory isn't the issue, then you'll need to analyze the cash flow statement to see if you financed your investments. What I'm primarily looking for here is if I purchased any large, expensive items like plant space or equipment. And if so, especially in the early years of your company, you will need to borrow money to cover these long-term investments. A good rule of thumb is making sure that your cash position in the finance department is around 7 to 10% of your total projected sales, which can be found in your pro forma reports. So for an example, if I were projected to sell around $100,000 in this upcoming year, then I would need to have at least $7,000 to $10,000 as my cash position. If I'm substantially lower than what I need, then I must borrow money either with current debt, long-term debt, or issuing stocks. Remember, your cash flow position and projected revenue is all based off of your forecasting. So accurate forecasting is crucial. If you run into issues with your company, don't panic. Take a step back, analyze the situation, and determine the root cause. With this approach, you'll have better luck turning things around quicker rather than later. If you do have more questions regarding your results, obstacles you're experiencing, or any questions in general, then please feel free to reach out to our support team at support@capstone.com. We are also available on the phones Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time if you prefer to call. And that number is 877-477-8787. Thank you for tuning in and good luck.